Do you have a kid and you need some ideas for school snacks and lunches? Or just an adult who has the palate of a kid? Well, stick around because my son Ephraim is going to walk you through some of his favorites.
Well, I can smell the black salt.
Right? Yeah, as soon as you smell it, you're like, oh, that smells like farts. Like farts in a good way. Like, you know how your own farts smell good, but someone else's doesn't? This smells like your own fart.
He's not wrong.
Greetings and welcome to or welcome back to PB with Jay. Here on the channel, we focus on all things plant-based goodness. But today, my son Ephraim is going to walk you through some of his favorite plant-based snacks and lunches. This is a compilation of recipes that we've shown previously on the channel, but this has all been curated by Ephraim himself. And we thought, since he's a teenager with discerning tastes, maybe this will work for your child or teenager as well. Full disclosure, Ephraim is not actually technically plant-based, he's more of a pescatarian. So this is good to know because these are all whole food plant-based recipes that he likes. So chances are your kid or kids or you might like them as well. Today he is going to cover some snacks, some snack ideas, things we make specifically for lunches, and then leftovers that make awesome lunches as well. I strongly recommend you watch this video straight through to get all of the different ideas, but if you want to jump around between the different recipes, we have them in the chapters in the description down below for your ease of doing so if you want to repeat this video and come back to it later on. For all the recipes that are on our website, I'll also link those down in the description too. Or if you want some more ideas for recipes for yourself or your child, consider using my link down below for the Thrive Bundle. The Thrive Bundle is a carefully curated plant-based bundle that gives you $4,500 worth of resources for only $48. It has cookbooks, meal plans, guides, workbooks, online courses, yoga and workout routines, mindfulness and meditation, as well as information on plants and gardening. At 1% of the actual cost of all of these things combined, it's an incredible offer, but here's the thing, it's only available for a very limited time. So if you want to pick up this bundle, you have to do so between August 28th and September 6th. Again, the link is in the description down below. Do not hesitate getting it because it will be gone very, very soon. Before Ephraim takes over, I'd like to say hello to some of you who've said hello to us in the comments down below. Edna from Vancouver Island, Barbara from Glastonbury, United Kingdom, Patty from Anchorage, Alaska, Marie from South America, Dawn from Edmond, Oklahoma, Lori from Maine, Manda from Langley, British Columbia, Melissa from South Carolina, Susan from Seymour, Tennessee, David from Mililani, Hawaii, Bonnie from Dallas, Texas, Alicia from Covington, Virginia, and Marn from the Kawartha Lakes Cottage Country. If you would like a shout out here on the channel, all you have to do is say hello to us in the description down below. Let us know who you are, where you're from, and what do you like for plant-based snacks and lunches. And if you want to bump up on that shout out list, consider joining us over in the Mighty Network for that and a lot of other amazing perks, all for the price of a crappy cup of coffee a month. All right, Ephraim's turn.
When it comes to snacks, some snacks that I like are just plain and simple. I like some cut up fruit or vegetables, and with the vegetables, I like my mom's hummus recipe. It tastes good, and it's easy to put in your lunch. You can just like take a container and go. The hummus is good with carrots, actually just any veggies, and like crackers.
What you doing, Woody?
Preparing to make the hummus.
Ooh, a PB with Jay cutting board. Where can you get that?
Where can they get it?
In our merch store.
In our merch store. Where is that?
On our website.
On the website. All right. So our family likes really lemony hummus, I've learned. So I just gonna put 2 lemons in off the bat.
But the thing about hummus, you could kind of like add roasted red peppers. You could add a lot of garlic, depending on how you like your hummus, right?
Yeah. So we usually just do 1 clove because it seems to continue getting stronger as it sits, and just seems to be the right amount for all 4 members of our family. So we're not gonna mess with that, are we?
So what are you doing now? You're putting the garlic.
I'm putting the garlic into the food processor, and I'm gonna add the lemon and just pulse it for a second, and then I'm gonna leave it for like 10 plus minutes because the lemon juice actually helps to mellow out the garlic, so it's not so astringent. Is that a word? Astringent?
I like it. We're gonna put it on the. We're gonna put the actual meaning of that word right here.
Watch if you guys something completely different than I mean. There's 1 lemon. going in. Ooh. So this is a nice little lemon juicer. I don't know how old it is. It was my great aunt's. So it's probably at least from the 1960s, if not earlier than that. It's so cute. Maybe you have an old kitchen tool that was your mother's or your grandmother's. I'm saying mothers because, you know, back in the day,
Traditionally speaking, there weren't a lot of...
too many men in the kitchen. But if it was your grandfather's or your father's, very cool. Love to know about your old kitchen tools. That's it. Let it sit for 10 minutes plus, and then you can make the rest of the hummus.
Few moments later.
So we're gonna add half a cup of tahini. And our tahini, look how runny it is, see? Yeah, so good. Just pour it in.
So if it's not runny, what should they do?
That's a great question, I don't know.
Maybe add a little
Cry.
water in it?
Cry. No, you'll just have to, you'll see. You can add more lemon at the end. So the good thing about hummus is you can adjust at the end. You don't have to get it perfect in the beginning. What I usually do is I make it, and then I give Ephraim a pretzel with some hummus on it, and he tells me if it's up to
Is it ready?
standard. Not yet. But we learned last week that it tastes better after it's cooled, remember? Remember I gave it to you and it was kind of warm because it had been blended and the chickpeas were just cooked.
Is it ready now?
No. All right, so you want to scrape it down, make sure everything's getting in there and mixing up.
Is it ready yet?
No, you gotta scrape some stuff.
That's not enough.
Scrape.
She didn't put the chickpeas in yet.
Chickpeas in it yet, Charles. Get out of here. Put it on that for another second or two, like so. And actually, you're gonna keep it running, and you're gonna put in 2 tablespoons of very cold water.
What does this do?
This just helps with the consistency. I'm also going to put in half a teaspoon of salt, which you can always up later if you don't find it salty enough, but usually you find that's enough. Here's what you've all been waiting for. Chickpeas. Your hummus should look nice and smooth, and if you had really runny tahini like mine, it will be really soft and runny. And if it was harder, you can either add more lemon or more ice water if you want.
If you like really thick, it'll also thicken up as it sits.
Yeah,
a little bit.
This is true. It really needs to sit. Like, it's pretty good, but I think letting it sit in the fridge and then testing it will be better.
Is it Ephraim approved?
It's really garlicky this week.
No. But Ephraim approved otherwise?
Really garlicky. Another snack that I like is granola bars, and we make some pretty good homemade ones. What I like about the granola bars is that, again, they're really easy to pack, and you can make them on the weekend and they last the whole week, and they also taste really good. In the granola bars, you can change the fruits and seeds and spices in them to make them to your liking. If you feel a little treaty, you could put chocolate chips in them, or you can make like a layer on top.
In our family, we usually make granola bars for several reasons. One is because we're trying to reduce our amount of plastic garbage, and granola bar wrappers are one thing that produce a lot of garbage.
They're usually
especially
individually wrapped.
Especially for kids' lunches.
Like that kid.
She likes granola bars. So I've been working on something that's a little more crispy. Jeremy has another recipe that's more chewy. But the kids weren't really as into that. Annie liked that one. Ephraim did not. He would not eat that one. I don't know. Anyway, so I've come up with a new one. The good thing about making granola bars at home is you can make quite a few. I make it in a big pan, which I think is 9 by 13. And I just make a really big batch at once. And another thing is that then we know what's going into it. Most granola bars have some kind of oil in them, even healthier ones, or they have like multiple types of sugar. This recipe does have sweetener in it. The sweetener is maple syrup, and I also put a thin layer of melted chocolate chips on top.
So you don't have to? Do you have to do that?
No. Before we put chocolate chips inside, but for this one I thought I'd spread it on top. A little chocolate covered granola bar. Kid friendly, you know. But this would be like a good gateway into healthier eating as well for someone who's used to really high sugar things, because it still has the sweetness, but it's, I think, slightly better than what you buy in the store. I mix everything here in one bowl. No food processor necessary. One bowl, just stir it all together and then press it into the pan. Wet your hands a little so that you can press it down, because it is quite sticky and it's gonna be a little messy. So we use oats, flax. There's also flax in it. Quite a bit of flax. I put half a cup in. You can use nuts. I don't use nuts because in Canada, we have a lot of laws about nuts in public places, especially schools. So I make this completely nut-free, but you could substitute the seeds that I use, which I'm gonna sometimes I just use sunflower. Today I'm gonna use pumpkin and sunflower seeds and coconut, but you can substitute the seeds for any nut, just chop it up. There's like a pinch of salt in it. There's also tahini is what I use as a binder, but you could use peanut butter. So if you're looking to have a cheaper recipe because you're finding that you need more inexpensive things that you can make at home, then you can use whatever your cheapest nut butter is. So probably peanut butter, but just make sure you're still using the all natural, that it doesn't have any additives in it, that it's just peanuts.
And it needs to be pretty runny?
Yeah, like, because you want to be able to mix it. If it's really hard from the bottom of the container, it's going to be a little trickier to get it mixed in. Make sure you wash your hands, because you're going to be touching the granola bar. No one wants your grimy hands on their food. And the other thing I want to say about these granola bars is that they are crispy, but they are also quite crumbly. So I've been working on that, but when I made it less crumbly, then it was too soft and it didn't have the crunch. So when you cut them, you'll find that you have a lot of crumbs left. We just throw it into our granola pot, and then we just have a little bit extra granola. And you bake it at 350 degrees for about 25 minutes. This is the decadent part of the granola bar, which you don't have to do. I just do it because I'm a sucker of a mom, and my kids, they always eye the ones in the store with all the chocolate on, so I put a thin layer of chocolate. Looks like a lot of chocolate, but I actually spread it super thin over the whole bar. It's like a rounded half cup. And it's funny because sometimes I feel like it goes a long way, and some weeks I feel like I'm really stretching it. So I just spread it as thin as I can, just to give that little bit of chocolate taste, but not make it like super chocolatey. If you're trying to wean your kids off of sugary things, just every week, just make it a little thinner. They don't know. So I just melted the chocolate chips in the microwave. You could do it in a double boiler, and I do it until they're fully melted. So if there's like a couple chocolate chips not melted and you can just stir them in and they melt, I actually put it on for like 15 seconds after that, just to make sure it's like fully warm, and because the thinner and more runny the chocolate, the easier you can spread it thin. If you want to have a thinner or less chocolate, you could just do like a quick drizzle, and you could do melt fewer chocolate chips. But as I say, I'm a bit of a sucker.
These kind of remind me, if you're familiar with Cashy brand bars, because they're crispy. There's no oil in these things, which is insane to me.
Pop it in the fridge till it's solid, and then you can cut it into bars. And you can make the bars as big or small as you like. But as I mentioned earlier, they are quite crummy when you cut them, so be prepared to have a bowl of granola the next morning for breakfast.
That sounds like a win-win for me.
One eternity later.
So do you see how it's pretty crumbly?
That's not bad though. Oh, look, a piece fell.
Oh, I'll get the next piece. It's okay, I'll get the next one. There'll be more. So anyway, you can decide
So good.
here. When life gives you granola, eat it.
When it comes to lunches, one of my go-tos is just pasta in the morning that we cook up with marinara sauce or like pesto. And it's pretty easy to make.
This dish came out of a desperate night where I just grabbed random things from the fridge and made what is now one of my family's favorites. It's a super quick pesto. This comes together really fast. Get some water boiling on the stove. We're gonna put that pasta inside the pot. And then we're just gonna set our timer, because otherwise we're gonna forget. Now we're gonna make a pesto. So I have 2 cups of spinach, along with 2 cups of fresh basil that I just picked out of my garden, a little dash of salt, about 3 cloves of minced garlic, 1 tomato, just chopped into quarters, the juice of 2 limes. It's getting everywhere. Now we're gonna pulse this up. If it's too thick, I might add a little bit of aquafaba, and this would be taking the place of like an oil. Checking our pasta, giving it a stir. Now we're gonna add in about 3/4 cup of pine nuts. If you don't have pine nuts or you don't like them, you could also use cashews or Brazil nuts in here. Yeah, that's looking good. Oh, wow, the garlic just came and smacked me in the face. And the basil too. And I might give it another little blitz, but first, here's another little trick. When your pasta is about 2 or 3 minutes away from finishing, throw in some broccoli and let it cook along for the ride. And it's a nice way to do basically what's a 1-pot meal. We're 2 minutes away on this pasta, so we're gonna check it. I wonder if rice pasta works on the wall test. Do we know this test? Ready? It bounced off. No good. And this is what you want. You can see your broccoli is turning a nice green. I'm gonna turn this timer off because I'm just gonna go with my Jedi instincts now. But the other fun thing about cooking pasta is you gotta eat some, because you gotta make sure it's ready to go. Okay, so we're gonna drain the pasta and the broccoli out in the sink. So we're gonna quickly, that's hot. Put it right into here. We're gonna take that pesto, we're gonna pour it inside the pot. And I also had some leftover beans, so I'm just gonna throw those in too. All right, let's see how she tastes. Fresh basil makes the world of difference. And that garlic hits so beautifully. It mellows out a little bit with everything else going on. This is a perfect, delicious meal that you can make on any weeknight in less than 20 minutes.
Another good lunch is sandwiches, and one of the best ones is the eggless salad sandwich that we make. Eggless, not egg. Again, it's easy to pack and make. Takes probably 15 minutes. And then you can make a bunch or a little bit. You can put it on bread, a wrap, or you can even just eat it on its own.
If you've watched the show, you've seen me make a chickpea salad sandwich. But today, we're gonna do one that's even closer to its meaty counterpart.
It's good.
What do we call this? An eggless salad sandwich? What you wanna do is you wanna take firm or extra firm tofu, and what do we do first?
Press it.
We pressed it. So what I'm gonna have Ephraim do is just start to break it apart. And you can make this pretty small because you want it to be like the consistency as if you took a hard-boiled egg and mashed it up. So while he's doing that, I'm gonna make the mixture that's gonna make this really, really taste like eggs. What I've got here is just under a 1/2 cup of unsweetened plant milk, a 1/2 cup of soaked cashews. This is what's gonna give it that really nice fatty flavor. Now we're gonna add our seasonings. What we've got here is a combination of 1 teaspoon of turmeric, onion powder, 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper, and a teaspoon of black salt, also known as calaminac. And what does that do for it?
Makes it taste like egg.
Yeah, it's kind of sulfury, but when you mix it in together, it's really, really nice.
Oh, I can smell the black salt.
Right? Yeah, as soon as you smell it, you're like, oh, that smells like farts. Like farts in a good way. Like, you know how your own farts smell good, but someone else's doesn't? This smells like your own fart.
He's not wrong.
So we're gonna put in 2 teaspoons of Dijon mustard and 2 teaspoons of maple syrup. Now, we're gonna blend up this mixture. So now what we're gonna do, is that looking good? This is where the magic happens. We're gonna mix in that delicious flavor. Get it nice and coated.
Oh, wow, that smells so much like my farts.
Okay. So now we're gonna add a nice little texture element. So I've got some chopped up diced celery, and then what makes it my favorite, besides all the other delicious things,
Pickles.
that looks like egg salad. So let's make a little sandwich. Let's put a slice of tomato on the bottom. Just put it on all messy like. Here we go. What do you think?
It's good.
I defy anyone to say that doesn't taste like a typical egg salad sandwich, and the pickles are really what makes it magical for me. What's really great about this is you can make a really big batch, and it'll keep in the fridge for quite a few days. This is also really great inside of a wrap, if you wanted to.
Oh, yeah.
What should people do with this sandwich?
Smash into your face.
Oh my goodness.
Another thing is just PB&J sandwiches. If your school lets it, if you have a nut-free school, then you can use sunflower seed butter. And another thing is you can make PB&J roll-ups. We have showing it right now.
So we're gonna make a really simple sandwich that both adults and kids will love. It's a peanut butter and jam roll-up. What we're gonna do that's different is we're gonna amp up the protein in it by adding some chickpeas to this. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take about 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, about a half a cup of cooked chickpeas, half a teaspoon of cinnamon, and then we're also gonna use aquafaba. If you don't know what aquafaba is, it's the juice inside of a can of chickpeas. So this is a 1/4 cup. I don't think we're gonna wanna use it all. So I'm gonna start by just adding about half of it in. And then as we mix it together, we'll find out if the consistency is right. Great. It doesn't need to be pretty. It's just going to be a big, chunky mixture. Anyway, that's pretty great. So now what we're going to do is we're going to assemble our roll-up. You just take a regular tortilla. We're going to take some of that peanut butter mixture and put it on top. Make it a nice even spread all the way around. We're going to use that chia jam that we made earlier. And same thing, just plop it on top and just smear it all over. This is where you can use whatever fruit you've got. I'm gonna use grapes cut in half, as well as banana slices. And then we're just gonna put it all over. Next, the grapes. And then, we're just gonna roll it up. I'm gonna slice that in half. And that is a peanut butter and jam roll-up. You can eat this right away. You can put it in a lunch for later. It's good to go. It's creamy, it's sweet. You don't notice the chickpeas in there. It blends right in, but it's gonna amp up the protein. Delicious.
One last thing you can do for sandwiches or a wrap or something along those lines is you can make your own fake meat into a sandwich, or you can just buy some and put it in some bread and like some lettuce and stuff. But here's our recipe for seitan meat.
Grocery stores are full of fake plant-based deli meats, but let me show you how to make one on your own that comes together quickly, freezes well, and saves you a ton of money. The magic ingredient you need for this is vital wheat gluten. This is what's gonna give it the right texture and binding agent. So we're gonna put 1.5 cups of vital wheat gluten into a food processor. We're gonna crumble in 1 package of firm tofu that's been drained. You can just break it up with your hands. It doesn't have to be pretty because the food processor is gonna do all of the work for you. Bloop! Just a giant mountain of crumbled tofu. So this is the base of what we're gonna do, and now it's just about flavoring it. So I'm making what I would call like a turkey deli meat flavor. So I'm gonna pop in a tablespoon of water, a tablespoon of miso paste, a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar, a teaspoon of liquid smoke, 3 tablespoons of nutritional yeast, and 2 teaspoons of onion powder. And then 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of sage, teaspoon of garlic powder, and 2 teaspoons of no salt seasoning. This thing is packed with flavor. I'm so excited. So now we're gonna get this lid on top of here, and we're just gonna let this thing fire up. You're gonna let it continue to mix until it forms a giant ball inside of there. So this formed a little differently than it normally does, but we're gonna make this work anyway. So all we're gonna do now is just form it by hand. So you just wanna get it into the shape of basically a log. You could also form this into sausages or any other shape you want, and you just kind of roll it into the right shape. And it doesn't have to be a perfect log because we're gonna wrap this in aluminum foil. Give it a loose roll because it's gonna expand a bit inside the aluminum foil. And then we're just gonna twist the ends. And then what we're gonna do is I'm gonna place this inside of my pressure cooker with a cup of water inside this trivet, and I'm gonna let it steam for 1 hour. So after it steams for an hour, you wanna just gently release the tin foil because the steam is gonna start to come up. So So now we're gonna let this cool down before we slice it. It's gonna form a little bit of a skin around the edges as it cools, but that's what you want because that's similar to deli meat. It's even got some of the little speckles inside of it. I really love how this turns out. What's beautiful about this is that it lasts for at least a week or two inside the fridge, but it freezes beautifully. So you can make a really big loaf and it'll last you for a long time. But how does it taste? For me, this rivals any plant-based deli meat that I bought in a grocery store or even had in a restaurant. But it's even better when you put a little bit of really good mustard on top of it. Save yourself some money and make this yourself. It's so easy. This is great inside of a sandwich.
The last category of lunches I like to put in my lunch. Oh, it's not over here. I thought it was gonna be cool. I thought it was gonna like. The last category of lunches I like to put in my lunchbox. Look at this. It can roll up and it velcros. It has a nice handle.
And where can people get that?
I don't know. Look on the website. In the description down below. So here are some of my favorite leftovers that we've made on this channel. So the first one is the pad thai that we make. It's just, actually any stir fry works, but this one is especially good in the thermos. It heats up well. It's basically the same overnight. Tastes pretty good.
What's great about this is it's a typical stir fry, and what I love about stir fries is they come together quick and you can basically use whatever vegetables you have on hand. So we're throwing in some carrots, mushrooms, bok choy, cabbage, peppers, and I got some canned mini corn that I'll throw in later on. What I like to do when I have a meal like this is I try to go with different colors, and that lets me know that I have lots of different kind of nutrients in my vegetables. The only thing we don't have here is, I would have loved to have a red pepper, but we only had orange, so we're doubling up on the orange, the carrots, and the peppers. The sauce is really, really simple. It's made up of water, lime juice, tamari sauce, you could also use soy sauce, maple syrup, tomato paste, rice vinegar, and I put a little bit of chili garlic sauce in, which has a little bit of oil in it, but it's also gonna give it a little bit of a pop. Here's a hot tip. When you boil your water, once it's going, turn it off and throw the rice noodles in, and then just let them sit for like 5 to 8 minutes until they're mostly cooked. We're just gonna cut some tofu into rectangles, and I'm gonna air fry that for 10 minutes or so until it's got a bit of a firm skin on the outside of it. We're gonna put those vegetables into the wok, and once they're going, they don't need to go long. You just want to get them until they're just like, I don't know, al dente. You want them to still a little bit firm. Then we're going to toss in a little bit of the sauce, stir it around, toss in the noodles, stir it around, add the tofu, stir it around, put the rest of the sauce in. All right, dinner's ready. Boom, that's basically it. And then we're gonna put some peanuts on top.
The next one is tofu fried rice with pineapple, or without, it's up to you, but it just like gives some extra oomph. It heats up well. I mean, it's fried rice, so it's like you use stale rice anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But it heats up well, tastes good the next day and the day that you make it, and just really easy just to like take it out of the fridge and pack it in your lunch.
For years, I just cut tofu into squares and rectangles, thinking that was what you should do with it. But recently, I've been experimenting with doing different textures for it. And this one is my new favorite. And what I do is I shred the tofu. And what we're gonna do here is we're gonna make what I call a dirty tofu stir-fried rice. I'm gonna grate the tofu using like a cheese grater. And it's gonna create these beautiful little shreds. I'm doing a double batch, so I'm doing 2 blocks here, but normally you would just use 1. So once that's all shredded up, we're gonna create a wet rub to toss it in. So what I've got here is 2 teaspoons of chili powder, half a teaspoon of paprika, and half a teaspoon of garlic powder. And then to this, I'm gonna add a tablespoon of water and a tablespoon of tamari. You could also use soy sauce. Stir it together until you don't see any dry clumps. What we're gonna do now is pour it into our shredded tofu, and then we're gonna stir it around. You wanna try to get it so there's no white bits left, or at least you see a little bit of that color on every single piece. Now, just spread it out so it's even across the pans and it bakes evenly. And then we're gonna bake this at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 25 to 30 minutes. And while that's happening, you're gonna cook a grain of your choice. I like to use rice. So our tofu is finished cooking. As you can see, it's got this really beautiful crisp edge on it. It kind of resembles what I would think of as like a pulled pork or a chicken. Delicious. So first we're gonna make our sauce. So what we have here is about 3 tablespoons of plum sauce. To this, I'm adding a 1/4 cup of tamari. You could also use soy sauce, 1 teaspoon of rice vinegar, and 1 teaspoon of cornstarch. This is gonna act as our thickener. So we're gonna mix that together. This might be a 2 utensil stir. We also wanna make sure that plum sauce is not just kinda hanging out at the bottom there. We got our pan heating up nicely. So we're gonna add an onion, about 3 cloves of garlic, and about 1 inch of grated ginger. And we're just gonna stir that around and let these things get nice and translucent. So these onions are getting nice and soft and a little translucent. We're gonna add in our tofu mixture. In with the onion and garlic, and then we're gonna pour in half of that sauce. Now we're gonna mix that all around until it's nicely incorporated all through. That smell, look at that. That is happiness. So now we're gonna take this and just dump it out really, really quickly. Now I'm gonna use just a little bit of oil. This is sesame oil, and this is pure flavor for me. It does help things not stick, but sesame oil just gives it that dirty takeout flavor. I'm gonna add a shredded carrot and about 16 ounces of shredded red cabbage. We're gonna let this cook down for about 5 to 10 minutes until it's the texture that you like. Now we're gonna add that tofu mixture with the onions and the garlic and the ginger back into our pot. We're gonna add in 2 cups of cooked rice. If you have cold rice in the fridge, it's all right. This is fresh rice, but it's okay if it's a little clumpy. It just adds to that dirty, mixed up takeout feel that I'm kind of going for with this dish. So now we're gonna stir this down and mix it all around. Now we're gonna add in the rest of that sauce we made. I love that sound it makes. Plop. It says, I'm here, I'm sauce, and you're gonna love me. The finishing touch is just 1 tablespoon drizzle of sesame oil. I usually don't use oil, but this is one of the rare exceptions where I'll put it in the dish because it makes it taste killer. Spoon some in a dish for yourself. I like to finish this with some green onions and some peanuts. There's so many little subtle flavors going on there. That sauce is really, really delicious. And the peanuts and the green onions at the end just add this little extra kick of flavor. There's this fattiness from the peanut, and the green onion gives us this brightness. Shred your tofu and make yourself a delicious, dirty tofu fried rice.
And the last one, my go-to favorite for leftovers is taco soup. It's like one of the first recipes on the website. So if you want to find it on the website, you're going to have to like go to the 5th page for dinners. You gotta fix that. We'll put the link in the description down below for all these recipes. I won't, you will. Yeah, taco soup heats up really well. Honestly, you can have it for a couple days in a row and you won't get sick of it. Well, that might just be me. You can pack some tortilla chips and like avocado in like separate containers and mix them in, and heats up really good.
So we're gonna start off making one of my family's favorites. It's called taco soup. So this is a 1-pot meal. Everything just goes into one, and Roxy, you're gonna do everything.
Great.
Okay,
I'm
so
excited.
we've already got a can of both pinto and I wanna say black beans. And then pretty much the rest of it can go in as long as we don't put the lentils in right away. So if you wanna dump in the onions.
Okay.
So this is a half of an onion chopped And then all you need is 1 pepper. Hey, you're a professional.
Well, cooked a few stews in my
Cooked
day.
a few stews in the day. A can of diced tomatoes.
Okay.
Half a cup of salsa in, and we got a cup of corn there.
Okay.
We use a can of tomato paste. We're gonna plop in, this is like 2 cups worth of broth. Start giving that a stir.
Okay.
And while you're doing that, I'm gonna add in the spices. What we want is a half a cup. Please don't put a half a cup of spices in. We want a half a teaspoon garlic powder, cumin, and chili powder. So this is where it's really important if you're doing it on the pressure cooker to only put your lentils on top, because if you mix these in to the pressure cooker, they're gonna sink to the bottom and they'll burn.
Do you want them to be wet?
Yeah, they can be a little bit, but just press them down so they're just on top of the surface, but they're a little damp.
Okay.
So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna put this into our pressure cooker just on like a manual setting for 15 minutes.
Okay.
If you're doing this on the stovetop, I would say just cook it until the lentils are mushy and the vegetables are softened.
Okay.
So if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe, and see you guys in the next one. And girls.
Thanks again for joining us as Ephraim walks you through some of his favorite snacks and lunches. One last reminder to get that Thrive bundle before September 16th. $4,500 worth of resources. You can't beat that deal. And if you got a few more minutes, stick around because YouTube thinks you should watch this video next. And while you're doing it, hit that like and subscribe button to send this to other people as well. And so you get more videos like this. It's a good thing.